Why this story matters. While challenges remain, stories like this demonstrate that constructive action can make a real difference. Quick summary: this story highlights recent developments related to this day in history, showing how constructive action can lead to meaningful results. 181 years ago today, Edgar Allan Poe's iconic poem The Raven was first published. Printed in the New York Evening Mirror, it made Poe a household name almost immediately and turned the writer into a national celebrity. The narrative poem depicts a mysterious bird's midnight visit to a distraught lover. Read a short excerpt of the 1840, noted for its musicality and supernatural ambience. The talking raven accompanies the man's slow descent into madness. Poe wanted to create a poem that would appeal to both critical and popular tastes, so he used plenty of rhyme, alliteration, and repetition, a constant use of the word nevermore. Would you like to read more good news about this day in history and on this day? Though it made Poe popular in his lifetime and resulted in invitations to recite the Raven and lecture in public and private social gatherings, it did not deliver financial success, even though it became his most famous poem, Evermore. The opening stanza: once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, "tapping at my chamber door, only this and nothing more." More lines, nothing further then, he uttered, not a feather then, he fluttered till I scarcely more than muttered. Other friends have flown before, on the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Quoth the Raven and evermore. The name of the professional American football team, Baltimore Ravens, was inspired by the poem, chosen in a fan contest to honor the hometown of Edgar Allan Poe. He spent his early career in the Maryland city and was buried there 4 years after the famous poem was published. More good news on this date. W.V. Fields, the comedic actor, was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in 1940. Sleeping Beauty, Walt Disney's animated feature fairy tale, premiered 1934, and the first direct commercial flights from mainland China to Taiwan since 1934 and 25th. The Supreme Constitutional Court of Egypt ruled that people who do not adhere to none of the 3 government-recognized religions are still eligible to receive government identity documents. 28 over years ago today, the beginnings of the World Heritage Convention that will ultimately become UNESCO was established through an international agreement to pave and conserve Borobudur, a 9th century Buddhist temple in Indonesia. The largest Buddhist temple on earth, the Borobudur project was the first to have involved the use of modern techniques for monument conservation. Borobudur in 1911 CCSA 2.0. Tropa Museum, the agreement concerning the voluntary contributions to be given for the execution of the project to preserve Borobudur, dated Paris 29th of January, saw 5 countries agreed to contribute to the restoration: Australia AUD 200,000, Belgium BEFFR 250, Cyprus CWP 100,000, France USD 70,500, and Germany EMDM 2 million. In 1916, the actual work began. Over 1 million stones were dismantled and removed during the restoration and set aside like pieces of a massive jigsaw puzzle to be individually identified, catalogued, cleaned, and treated for preservation. Borobudur became a testing ground for new conservation techniques, including new procedures to battle the microorganisms attacking the stone. After the renovation was finished, UNESCO listed Borobudur as a World Heritage Site in 1970. 79 years ago today, Desert Island Discs first aired on BBC Radio when Roy Plomley asked a guest called a castaway to choose 8 recordings along with a book and luxury item that they would take if they were to be stranded on a desert island. Now celebrating a quarter less than a century of airtime, today's host Christy Young interviews iconic Brit David Beckham, while the BBC website features plenty of additional multimedia content like the funniest desert island discs or what the most picked piece was. It's now the longest running UK radio show with more than 3,000 episodes recorded. British broadcasters have voted it as the greatest ever radio show in the country. The original host, Roy Plomley, was incredibly strict with the rules, which stated that guests choose one luxury, which must be inanimate and of no use in escaping the island or allowing communication from outside. Guests are automatically given their preferred religious texts and the complete works of William Shakespeare. Because in 1940 there were only gramophone recordings, to this day guests are required to select a single piece comfortably, none rather than a whole record the wall. Future hosts have relaxed these rules, occasionally allowing pets, and in the case of John Cleese, the show's third host, Sue Lawley, allowed him to take his Monty Python co-star Michael Palin with him on the condition that he was dead and stuffed. Over the show's first 60 years, Beethoven's Ode to Joy was selected most often, although a more recent poll found The Lark ascending as the most requested piece by castaways, perhaps, as Dame Judy Dench points out, because of its essential Englishness. It has since spawned duplicate programs, such as one in Houston and another in the state of Maine. It also remains an extremely good game at parties. Listen to Judy Dench explain the reason behind the most requested disc. 1934. On this day in 1935, the Baseball Writers Association of America inducted the first players into the Baseball Hall of Fame: Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, Honus Wagner, Christy Mathewson, and Walter Johnson. The National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum in Cooperstown, New York, would open 3 years later. And on this day in 1938, actors Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward began their storied marriage, saying "I do" to a partnership prayer for Hollywood superstars that lasted 50 years.